Well, there it is. There it is, 4 o'clock. That means it's closing time and Broad and Wall on Wall Street, and opening time, open for business, politics, and news right here at Wrap. I'm in Orlando, but take a look at the markets in the meantime. Dow Jones had a very good day, by the way, across the board. Look at this. That was up 740 points, folks. That's a that's a good day. S&P up 118, NASDAQ up 451. More good news, though. Oil prices retreated a bit. Oil was down almost 60 cents a barrel, just approaching that $60 a barrel. Again, gold up, gold off a little bit. Bitcoin, 109,800 or so. Very, very strong markets across the board. All good news. I'm also in Orlando right now, a little different look to you because I spent the morning with ICE, Immigration and Customs, and then Border Patrol, and the FBI were there, and the DEA was there, and Florida Highway Patrol was there, and they busted a couple of bad guys, some Trin del Agua, bad hombres. We'll get back to that maybe tomorrow. Hopefully I get that to you tomorrow. I have some more video for you tomorrow. In the meantime, very, very good day in the market. My first guest is the White House Deputy Assistant to the President and Senior Policy Strategist. Welcome back, May Mailman. May, awesome to have you back. I appreciate your time. Let's talk a bit about the big news. Last week, the one big, beautiful bill passed the House, on its way to the Senate. Senate's got some work to do. What is the president? And I think we hear from the Senate side, there's going to be a lot of work on that bill. President's very happy about at least clearing the big hurdle getting through the House, right?
Absolutely, but also not just clearing the House, but what's in the bill. I mean, pick an issue. You want border security? This bill is a secure border. You want national security? This bill funds not only a robust military, but things like the Golden Dome, which are going to keep us safe for decades. You want to stop funding transgender surgeries for minors using Medicaid money. It does that, adds program integrity requirements, extends the tax cuts, no tax on tips. Pick an issue. This is a great bill. And so the Senate can think about ways to improve on it. And that's something, at some point you run out of time, and Mike Johnson really wanted to get this done. And so there are a few things where just timing wise, it's probably better to put it in the Senate and have them work on it than try and finish up in the House. And that's fine. But this is a great bill.
Yeah, agree. And so you understand, when the folks who watch my show know where I am. I'm a free marketeer. One of the pushbacks of some folks in Congress, in GOP Congress, coming from states like Congress people from Florida and Texas, where they're concerned about the salt. The salt in the bill allows New Yorkers and people who are going to fund things that we don't necessarily like. Well, it also has people who don't have state and local, don't have state taxes like Florida and Texas to be funding some of that stuff. And they're upset about that. But I'm with you, May. I mean, let's be honest, folks. When you get a bill this big and you get tax cuts this big and you get drug prices going down this much, you're going to have to take a little bit of the medicine with it, about right?
Yeah, the salt things, you and I wish that these moderate members or even conservative members in blue states would bring their state along with them and just say, hey, state, how about we have a friendly business climate? Then we won't be a failing state like California, like New York, right? Then we'll be a growing, robust state. And you won't have to charge high taxes because you'll have businesses moving into those states, just like they're moving into Texas, just like they're moving into Florida. Unfortunately, that's just not the way the House works, but the Senate is a little bit different. And then you don't have conservative members in blue states, right? Those conservative members are in red states. So there's just a different calculus coming out of the Senate. So the Senate might make some changes to SALT. It's a huge amount of money, but it's something that was very important to those members. So we'll see what happens. But the ideal situation, of course, is for California, New York, and other blue states to try and figure out what it means to have a robust economy in their state.
I love having May on because you're involved in the policy. It's not just let's hear the talking points, let's deliver them, but you understand the nitty gritty of the policy. I know for a fact that no tax on tips was a huge selling point in the election. Huge. It got so many people jazzed, not only people who are working in the service industry, people who said, that makes a lot of sense. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime. There are those now, and I'm just being playing devil's advocate here, May, because I owe it to my audience, because there's a portion of my audience that says, yeah, but what about no tax on Social Security? What happened with that? And what's the White House response to that?
Yeah, it still remains a presidential priority. And so I think it's something that can still be worked on. Obviously, everything is a little bit, it takes some time and moving at the House's speed. So there are other, I think, tax provisions that are still being worked on, from various tax reliefs for building pipelines, energy credits about things that make it easier to build. So I think there are still things that are high priorities. The movie industry also wants some tax relief to help make movies in the United States. So you're not filming a New York film, but in Toronto, that you're filming it in the United States. So there are a lot of other priorities that still need to be worked through. At the end of the day, it's a money thing. I mean, can you find the money? Because we still want to be respectful to the deficit and to our future generations, so that my kids, so that people's kids aren't poor, like that they can still have roads because they're able to have enough money and not just be sending it as debt payments to China. So that's really important too, and just balancing all these priorities.
I'll tell you what, there's a great messaging twist. That answer was fine. I'll take it, right? There's a great messaging twist where you can say this and take it. Run with this, May. Okay, seniors, no tax on Social Security, very, very important. We're still working on it. However, do you understand the biggest tax on seniors? The biggest tax on seniors, bar none, is inflation. And when under 4 years of Biden, you had inflation fly through the roof. So it doesn't matter if you pay taxes on your Social Security or not. You were getting smoked in the grocery aisle and anytime you fill up your gas and everything you do, everything you buy. So but with Trump's policy, especially this policy, where you're saving more of your own money, lower taxes, but you're bringing inflation down with the energy development, with some of the other programs that are in this one big, beautiful bill, you're going to be better off paying tax on your Social Security and having a financially superior inflation scenario going forward than the last 4 years. It's really a messaging play, and I highly recommend you might grab that one and run with it.
Yeah, and it's not just the tax on Social Security. It's whether you can live on Social Security. It's whether you can actually, you have savings by which to supplement with Social Security. If you have no savings because the inflation was so bad, because you couldn't afford a house. I mean, the whole thing is connected in that if you are unable to afford a house in your youth, then you're not going to end up having savings, and then you're going to be totally reliant on Social Security, and who cares about the tip? So, the taxes on that. So we're invested in structural changes in the U.S. economy that are going to allow people to actually live in America, because there are good manufacturing jobs, because companies have reshored their businesses here. That's why the tax cuts are so important. That's why some of the energy spending is so important, because if we're not energy independent, if we don't have energy jobs here, if we're not producing cheap, reliable energy, then you can't afford to live here. So a lot of these structural changes are so important to us, because at the end of the day, the tax on a Social Security is not going to be meaningful if you don't have a base level of savings to count on.
I'll tell you what, the embracing of nuclear power is a major, major initiative. That is a great, so long in coming. I'm so thrilled Trump is doing everything. Drill here, baby, drill, baby, drill. That's great, and we will. But to embrace nuclear again, we really need to, especially as the world embraces electric vehicles. We're going to need more nuclear generated electricity. We'll never keep up with the demand if we don't. And our power grid. I don't know, but I spent 20 years in the energy industry. Is there money in this bill to upgrade our power grid? Because it is a disaster right now. It literally may need $1 trillion of upgrading.
Yeah, so there are a lot of positive movements on the energy front. So it phases out a lot of these Biden Inflation Reduction Act credits, except for when it comes to nuclear, in which case we still want to incentivize nuclear. This is not your grandmother's nuclear energy. These are small, these are safe, these are sustainable. This is going to power our country for generations. And then, like I was saying, there's a lot of permitting reform that we need. There are a lot of tax incentives that if you're building, also taking away a lot of these carbon considerations. If you cannot build an electric grid, if you can't maintain basic infrastructure in your state because you're so tied up on the NEPA, am I going to hurt a caterpillar? Or everything is incentivized to build except for grid reliability, then you're not going to have a country. So we're trying to build in those incentives to make sure that the tax structure is aligned with things that are going to keep our country safe and keep our country energy resilient and energy dominant for decades to come.
It's great. I wanted to get into the Harvard issue. We kind of ran out of time, and I know you're busy. We're both busy. I really would love to get into Harvard, and maybe we'll do that again very, very soon. I just hope you go back to them and say, Mr. President, that electricity grid, that grid is literally in shambles. Not his fault, not anyone's fault. It just hasn't been paid attention to for so many years, and we're getting rolling brownouts. We're getting blackouts. A nation this size, $30 trillion economy, we should not have rolling blackouts in our major cities. So hopefully we pay attention to that, and great job with the nuclear as well. May Mailman, appreciate your time, making some time for the Bolling Show and Rav today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Quickly, want to remind you about that podcast exploding over there. You guys are signing up like crazy. Subscribe to one of those spots right there below. We're all over the Diddy trial. Amazing testimony today. You will not believe the list of defense witnesses that are being called. Kamala Harris is one of them. I'll just leave it at that, and a whole list of others. It's just unbelievable what's going on over there. We cover it on Bolling on digital. Sign up right there. We'll be back 2.5 minutes. All right, Mad Dog, I resemble that picture right there. I resemble that remark. That's Orlando, Florida. I'm in Orlando, and let's do this. Let's do this right now. My next guest, the Chief Executive Officer and Editor-in-Chief of Just the News. Always happy to have John Solomon back with us. You are a star at Rav, John, and star. I'm really in all politics, man. So I wanted to grab you because real quickly, I'm in Orlando. A recommendation that you helped make happen, an ice raid this morning. And
That's exciting.
And tomorrow morning, we busted a couple of Tren de la Agua perps, and it's been amazing here. So I wanted to thank you for that and tell all the folks that
what a great experience. It's amazing to watch those guys, isn't it? It's amazing what those guys do day in and day out, busting down doors, picking up bad guys, but they're making the country safer, one gang member at a time.
Yeah, one gang, and it was amazing. The guy tomorrow allegedly is a wanted for murder. So got the bulletproof vest. Now we're going to bring all that to the folks as soon as we can get the video in and get it compiled and have a little discussion. John, other news. Let's talk about news of the day, the stuff you're really, really insanely good with. President Trump paused the student visa interviews at all the embassies. Tell us about that, and also, this whole idea where Harvard gets another freaking judge to stop another Trump policy about not allowing them to bring in foreign students. Where does all this stand? Tell us what you know.
Yeah, listen, I think first off, the pause is designed again to get at the issues of security. Who is coming into this country? Our Chinese students who have been infiltrating the universities for 2 decades, doing the espionage work of China. Those are things that they're trying to get to the bottom of. So a pause protects the nation until we get better answers. Remember, Joe Biden ended the FBI's China initiative, which gave us eyes onto what these students were really doing when they were on our soil. So for 4 years, we've been blind. A lot of espionage has been carried out. We didn't need the balloon to remind us of that a few years ago. So I think the president buys some time for all the national security establishment to look at who's coming in, why, before we let more people in. In the meantime, you're right, there's an epic battle between the executive branch and the judicial branch. Who will win? I think ultimately the Constitution gives the president the decision of who gets to enter the country. He'll probably win on this when the courts are done. But a lot of the lower courts in blue cities are ruling in the favor of ideology, not necessarily the Constitution. It'll take the Supreme Court to reverse them. But at the end of the day, I think Donald Trump wins even when he loses a court case. Why? Because he reminds the American people that these elitist universities that their children maybe strive their whole lives to get into are more interested in serving foreign populations and foreign donors than they are the American people. And I think Donald Trump's comment this weekend, maybe I'll take the $3 billion and put it into trade schools this weekend. That's the amount of aid that Harvard was getting from the government. That's a winner. People are starting to realize that Donald Trump's trying to force these universities to think about Americans, not cater to some foreign audience that pays the highest price.
It's insane. We just said there, the $3 billion that Harvard gets in aid. Just think for a moment. First of all, Trump tweeted, I'm sorry, he truthed over the weekend. I believe it was over the weekend. He said something like 56% of the student body at Harvard is foreign and they're not paying any tuition. Meanwhile, we're giving Harvard $3 billion on top of the fact, John, and you and I both know this, Harvard's got a $62 or $63 billion endowment sitting there, huge. And they don't pay taxes on the money they earn on that money and other things. How much more can the American taxpayer fund this institution that seems to just want to give it away to the foreigners?
Yeah, and also allow a hostile environment for their students. Anti-Semitism was running amok until Donald Trump and others started to make it an issue in the American public. So they harm the students that are on campus that are paying tuitions. They give all these benefits to foreign governments. It doesn't feel that American anymore. And I think that that's the point Donald Trump was making. And even as he loses a couple court cases, he'll eventually win a lot of these at the Supreme Court, as he has all along in the first 4 months of his presidency. He's winning with the American people. He's already winning in the court of public opinion because common sense people are nodding their heads saying, yeah, this is ridiculous. Just like what you said, Eric. They're nodding at what you said. This is an insanity picture.
Crazy. Just crazy. Cut them off. Pay taxes like the rest of us and like the rest of our non-Harvard institutions, including businesses. Trump also got pretty ticked off at Putin. I think he called him crazy at one point. He said Putin's playing with fire and that Russia's situation could be much worse if Trump didn't step in. My concern here, and you know these players very well, John, is that Putin will pay lip service to Trump because he wants to respect Trump. He doesn't. Last thing in the world he wants is another fight, but he doesn't seem to be changing his tactics. He almost seems to be upping his game. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, listen, I think those who are in the intelligence community who give us an honest assessment of Russia, not the stuff that came out in Russia collusion, tell us that because of the threats that Democrats made for 2 decades of putting Ukraine in NATO and moving NATO to that close to Russia, that Vladimir Putin would like to create a 100 or 150 mile radius, a security zone that the West can't penetrate to give Russia greater protection. It's a great fallout from the fantasized, romanticized, but never realistic expectation that NATO was going to move into Ukraine. There was no basic security reason for NATO to be in Ukraine. It was simply a Democratic wish list item, but it forced Putin into a different mindset and a different posture. And that's what he's trying to carry out now, get as much land as he can get to give himself a significant perimeter against future Western encroachment. That is how he views it. That may not be the right thing to view, but that's how he views it. You're right, he will pay lip service to Trump because he does want to respect him. He will only understand pain. That's what a bully understands. And I think President Trump is very close to slamming down the pain button. And I think you can see some very serious sanctions, the seizing of some of these illicit oil shipments that are going across the globe, perhaps rolling up some of the assets of oligarchs and Putin himself, the money that they have stored in Western banks. And then the ultimate, the nuclear version of sanctions, a sanction that targets the Russian central bank. Russia's economy is very unilateral, very singular in the banking system. If you sanction the central bank of Russia, you can literally force bread lines to form in a few days. Money and everything will halt. I think Donald Trump's going to start moving through those escalating choices, holding back the last one to see how Putin acts. But I think you're going to see a sanction regime coming aboard really, really fast.
I wonder if that was Freudian when he said the nuclear option available to him in sanctions. I'm not sure.
Listen, there's another reason Donald Trump's acting. There's another reason that Donald Trump's worried. The German chancellor is talking about taking the range off of the missiles that Germany's giving them, meaning that they would be okay. They would allow German missiles to strike Moscow. That is something that has a very dangerous potential to escalate war in Europe. And I think Donald Trump's running against that clock, too, trying to get Putin's attention before something like that happens.
John, do you know? I mean, there's word that the Putin's helicopter was attacked by Zelensky's drones, but the Russian military took down all the drones. Was that true? Or was that some sort of propaganda story? Do you know?
It looks to be more propaganda than truth. I can't find any confirmation among the Americans. There are drone attacks. I think some of them were in the vicinity, a few miles of where the president was, President Putin was, but I don't get a sense it was a direct targeting attack. I think both sides know that that's a step too far. But, Russia's on tenuous ground. The economy's not that good, even with the way things are now. So Putin uses a lot of propaganda to keep his Russian people angry and motivated against the West. And I think that's probably a little bit of what happened this weekend.
All right, John, everyone got to watch your show every night at Rav just after.
Thank you.
This to ban to John. It's a great show, and you are just in tap to so much what's going on inside the Beltway. Appreciate your time, John. And again, thank you.
Great to be with you. I love your
set
show.
Up that ride. Thank you, John.
See you.
All right, folks, before we hit a break, I just want to remind you about that podcast I've been talking about for a couple of weeks now. It's exploding right now. If subscribers all over the place love it, subscribe. It's always for free. You cannot believe the testimony that went on today in the P. Diddy trial. I know we don't talk about it here, but I definitely talk about it over there. The witness list came out, and get this. Kamala Harris is one of the witnesses that P. Diddy is calling on part of his defense. Just think about that for one moment. We dodged the bullet as president. Now we're going to get to hear her word salads again. All right, folks, that's it. We'll be back in 2.5 minutes. Well, Mad Dog, that would be Niagara Falls. Again, I'm in Orlando. Sometimes it's, Orlando, it's hard to see, but that looks like Niagara Falls. I think you said it was Niagara Falls, yeah?
Yes, sir. Niagara Falls, Canada.
How many times you been over Niagara Falls in a barrel, Mad Dog?
Not in a barrel, but I've been there a couple of times.
It's a really cool thing to see if you've never seen it, but don't go over Niagara Falls in a barrel. The lack of self-awareness is not surprising, is it? Well, it might be. So NPR actually believes that despite its blatant political bias, wow, is there a bunch of that? We should keep paying for NPR with our own tax dollars. The First Amendment has nothing to do with it. These folks haven't understood the First Amendment in decades, if ever. Just over a year ago, one of their very own outed their bias, and they think that Americans, every single taxpaying American, should have to pay for their bias. They even understand how little trust America has in NPR. First of all, in the news media to start with, let alone a biased place like NPR, National Public Radio. If we hate the media this much, think how much they must even hate themselves. They tried to stop Trump. They've tried to stop MAGA, not once, not twice, maybe even more times. Every element of propaganda, every time they toss aside the core of their profession to spout their lies, they sold their own souls. The Democrat Party and the media they birthed, the entire leftist machine is really in a tender moment right now. And yet, these clowns, these leftist media clowns continue on the same path.
But in this moment, this morning, our sacred rule of law is under attack. Journalism is under attack. Universities are under attack. Freedom of speech is under attack.
Oh, Tim, isn't there a tampon machine in the boys' room you should be changing? I don't know. Here we go again. The left not only learns nothing, but they decide to impart that stupidity to the graduating class of 2025, because why not sprinkle a little bit more of that good old Marxist propaganda on the way out for good measure?
And insidious fear is reaching through our schools, our businesses, our homes, and into our private thoughts. The fear to speak in America.
You want to know something, folks? I thought that was Tampon Tim Walz. You know who that was? That was 60 Minutes' Scott Pelley. Scott, it started to look and sound like Tim Walz. Insidious fear, says Scott Pelley. Oh, tell us more, sir. What a message of positivity for young adults about to enter the world. Great. Thank you. Insidious fear. That's your message to them. Oh, it was just CBS News 60 Minutes show host Scott Pelley delivering a speech to graduates at Wake Forest University. And instead of instilling hope, he spewed lies. And again, what do they all love to do? Attack President Donald Trump. You know, in case there was ever any question or doubt about where Scott Pelley stands on the barometer of media blatant bias, 60 Minutes has done terrorist bidding. 60 Minutes has participated in proverbial election interference. But sure, let's listen to what his failed actor has to say about fascism and free speech, Scott Pelley. But as always, that's just a leftist stepping stone to what really this is all about, as we all know all too well.
Power can rewrite history with grotesque, false narratives. They can make criminals heroes and heroes criminals. Power can change the definition of the words we use to describe reality. Diversity is now described as illegal. Equity is to be shunned. Inclusion is a dirty word. This is an old playbook, my friends. There's nothing new in this.
What was all this? Diversity, inclusion. What was that? By the way, close your eyes, folks, when you listen to the next Scott Pelley soundbite. Tell me that doesn't sound like Tim Walz. What in the fresh hell was all that dramatic display? So as we work to undo their woke Marxist liberal nonsense, they're actively trying to bring it back to young, impressionable, graduating audiences. And they're not hiding it. Inclusion is a dirty word, he said. But when the left changes words, it's okay, right, Scott? They're perfectly fine with their so-called equity leading to planes falling out of the sky, literally, and crashing into each other on runways. DCA, for example. If they want to talk about free speech, why don't they look back to just, not that long ago, a couple months ago, February, when they happily and supportively reported on Orwellian practices carried out by Germany.
In the United States, most of what anyone says, sends, or streams online, even if it's hate-filled or toxic, is protected by the First Amendment as free speech. But Germany is trying to bring some civility to the World Wide Web by policing it in a way most Americans could never imagine.
60 Minutes defending the stifling of free speech. What she said on behalf of the leftist machine is that what Germany is doing sounds about, well, wunderbar. Well, it got worse.
In an effort, it says, to protect discourse, German authorities have started prosecuting online trolls. And as we saw, it often begins with a pre-dawn wake-up call from the police.
And then they showed such a raid proudly because this is what they want here in America. So they glorify the German censorship machine for all to see, like the good old leftist propagandists they are.
The worst of the internet is wrapped in red case folders, stuffed with printouts of online slurs, threats, and hate.
This is a criminal offense, so.
What does that say?
Kletterpark for Flüchtlinge.
So they're suggesting that the refugee children play in the electrical wires. Okay.
In this case, the accused had to pay 3,750 euros.
Wow.
It's not a parking ticket.
Yeah, not a parking ticket.
But wait, there's more.
Is it a crime to insult somebody in public?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
And it's a crime to insult them online as well?
Yes.
The fine could be even higher if you insult someone in the internet.
Why?
Because in internet, it stays there.
If somebody posts something that's not true, and then somebody else reposts it or likes it, are they committing a crime?
Yeah, in the case of reposting, it is a crime as well.
All these clowns. Scott Pelley represents one of the worst offenders of anti-journalism, CBS News, that repeatedly peddled Russian disinformation about the Hunter Biden laptop. Remember that? Russian collusion story. Remember that? They actively participated in election interference in their obvious edit cover-ups for Kamala Harris, one of the worst presidential candidates in American history. And they continue to tell lies about the current president. Meanwhile, over at NBC, life is not much better. Zero lessons learned, actively peddling lies and propaganda. Trump derangement syndrome is off the charts. How is it that one of the very people who is actively involved in covering up for a mentally and physically ill president, literally as his mouthpiece, speaking to America and the world on his behalf, Jen Psaki, is not only allowed, she's allowed to do it, but she gets her own program on NBC, MSNBC, already a travesty and a spit in the face of all conservative Americans. But then Jen Psaki has on her show, the man who had a heavy hand in destroying our faith and trust in the media, but also the FBI as an institution. And she's rewarding him and asking him about the murder of our president.
Is the law enforcement system and the legal system equipped to deal with what we're seeing now?
Probably there could be changes at the margins, but in the main, we have the tools. There are cultural impediments to doing this work. Let's say you work in the FBI. You know that one of the two political parties is, let me put it nicely, white supremacist adjacent at a minimum. And so why would you want to throw your career on that side of the line and be summoned to Capitol Hill to be asked, why are you pursuing these innocent groups? And so we have a cultural impediment to working it effectively that should get more attention than it does.
So they sit there and talk about creating new laws to stifle Republican progress. That's what they're saying. Lawfare didn't work. Assassination attempts to, at least, failed. And now we're just going to stomp all over our Constitution and laws, right? Jim Comey, how did that man ever hold a position of power, let alone the most powerful law enforcement institution in the country? And they want to peddle notions about what fascism is. Their answer is, well, I don't like their policies over on the right or their agenda. So you know what? Let's just change the laws. History shows that's called an insurrection, that a country killing fascist revolution, and MSNBC openly not only condoning it, peddling it, selling it. We're showing you your bias, NBC, CBS. Americans are telling you that they're done with the mainstream legacy propaganda media, and yet you really don't see it, do you?
I just don't know what the issues are with us. I don't know. I don't understand the criticism.
They don't get it. They don't get it, sure, whatever. But what they also won't get anymore is our eyeballs. And our eyeballs are money to them. They're not going to get our money. Their bias is clear, and it's time Americans stop footing the bill for their propaganda and utter BS. Back in 2.5. Oh my gosh, Mad Dog, can I get you on the super phone on the speaker? You say Bridgewater, but I recognize that court. I recognize that town. That's Pickleball Court, New Jersey, isn't it?
Well, they're playing pickleball court, but it is Bridgewater. That's the correct abbreviation.
Do you think any of the folks watched our Memorial Day show yesterday, where we talked about all our little interactions about the locations?
I'm sure they did.
Let us know. Let me know on the Rumble chat, the Getter chat, and the YouTube chat. Let me know on all the chats what you think of our little interactions. It's always good. Always having fun with Mad Dog. Okay, it seems as though Nancy Pelosi's opinion of Joe Biden, well, has changed yet again. It wasn't long ago that crazy Nancy was one of the undercover ringleaders of the operation that booted Biden off the presidential ticket. But recently, old Nancy has much more positive things to say about our former president. Well, listen to this asinine suggestion.
A good place to make whatever decision, the top of his game. Such a consequential president of the United States, a Mount Rushmore kind of president of the United States. Want to know what comes next.
That he belongs up there on Mount Rushmore, Lincoln and Joe Biden.
But you got Teddy Roosevelt up there, and he's wonderful. I don't say take him down, but you can add Biden.
Is she nuts? Biden on Mount Rushmore again. I think the only thing Biden should be doing on Mount Rushmore is assisting the chiselers as they chisel Donald Trump's face and head as the 5th president on Mount Rushmore, South Dakota. The latest cash burning effort from the left represents a new low, even by Democrats. Extremely minimal standards, little standards. Democrats strategist appeared on MSDNC and tried to explain why his party thinks shredding $20 million is going to help them connect with, I don't know, men voters. Listen.
Yeah, good questions. One, let me save the folks from the Times and all the other great, print outlets some time. If you dig in on what Democrats are researching right now, you're going to find a lot of silly stuff. You're going to find people asking a lot of questions, people asking about syntax and do I drop the G from this word and this and that, and it's going to be a lot of that. So let me just warn everybody, that process is going to be very obnoxious for this 40-something. I would also say, we're really talking about young men, right? Young men who Democrats have not figured out a consistent pitch for how to get in front of. And I think it starts with authenticity.
Okay, good luck. Good luck with that. Yeah, drop 20 million. You guys haven't figured it out. You just have to just completely abandon the DEI stuff. Just get rid of it. And there's a good example how they're just not ever going to do that. Jake Tapper seems to have finally figured out what that crazy journalism word is supposed to mean. It only took him 56 years. But once again, let's not fall for Jakey's little escapades in his little speeches here. This man has built a career on lying, and now he's trying to build up his book sales, which came out last Tuesday, by doing the exact same thing. Listen to his latest, far too late on air epiphany.
And I think that we need to be skeptical of everything that we are told by people in power. And I mean, that obviously should be the mantra of being a journalist to begin with. If your mother tells you she loves you, get a second source. Right. But we just need to remember that, like, politicians lie, White Houses lie, power is an aphrodisiac. And we just need to all remember that and not take at face value anything that we're.
You forgot one, Jakey. You forgot one. Media lies. Left-wing media lies. Jake, you lied. You shut down Laura Trump when she was talking about Joe Biden's dementia. You shut her down and said she was lying. She was wrong. And now you write a book about how journalism missed it and how politicians, media lie. Jake, you are lying, but you're going to sell a best-selling book. You're going to do it. It's going to be #1. Folks, I think it comes out. I think you release a book on the Tuesday. I believe the following Wednesday, when the author finds out, it's either the following Wednesday or the one after, finds out if they're a bestseller in the New York Times. So all that matters. Amazon doesn't matter. New York Times matters. Jake will be a bestseller again. Yep, we got it. And let me guess, Jake's going to find someone, Netflix, some liberal, one of these liberal streaming services, to do a movie on his book. And the freaking guy lied from the very beginning. He's so full of garbage. I'm just tired. Jake, be honest for once, will you? Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson. Let's go, Brandon. When will this guy give up? He is so completely ignorant, incomprehensibly racist, by the way, has a 7% approval rating in Chicago as a black mayor. Think about that. Yet continues to run his mouth, spout his BS out his pie hole. The mayor decided to wish the world a happy Africa Day. Okay, fine. But guess when he did that, folks? He wished the world happy Africa Day on Memorial Day, a day of American remembrance. Listen to this slime come out of his mouth.
Hello, I am Mayor Brandon Johnson, and I am proud to join you in recognizing and celebrating Africa Day. The continent of Africa is made up of 1.2 billion people with diverse countries full of rich traditions, cultures, and heritage. The African diaspora can be found in cities and countries around the globe. And right here in Chicago, our proud African communities have made indelible contributions to the growth and fabric of our amazing city.
People all over the country right now fed up with Brandon Johnson's BS, and his Africa Day message seems to be the final straw for a lot of people. Listen to this reaction, which perfectly explains why anyone with a pulse should support whoever runs against Let's Go Brandon Johnson in Chicago next mayoral race.
Imagine being mayor of one of the most violent, crime-ridden, economically unstable cities in America. And instead of honoring fallen soldiers on Memorial Day, you are out here celebrating Africa Day Like, that's going to fix the south side of Chicago. Whose man's is this? Who sent you?
And I am proud to join you in recognizing and celebrating Africa Day.
I'm trying to understand. Let me get this straight. While Americans are solemnly honoring the lives of men and women who died defending this country, Brandon Johnson is out here with a pre-recorded message talking about Happy Africa Day, as if we're all about to throw on a dashiki and go eat some jollof and fufu.
I want to get this one in because we got Bannon standing by. Brittany Griner, remember her? Joe Biden's favorite pot-smoking Russian hostage, just got caught in a major bashing of Caitlin Clark during a game at WNBA game. Of course, Griner, who we traded the Merchant of Death for, by the way, giving back to Russia for this freaking winner. Well, not chirping about Clark, about her basketball game. In fact, she seems to be most angry about the color of Caitlin Clark's skin after falling out of a recent WNBA contest. Try to read her lips here, but I think you probably can read your lips. Watch. Let's watch that. She appears to be saying, trash effing white girl. Trash effing white girl. You imagine that? Imagine now if it was a clip of Caitlin Clark, the face of the WNBA, saying the opposite about Brittany Griner. The outrage would be immense. All right, hit me up. Let me know what you think about it. We'll be back in 2.5. Bannon on the backside of this break. All right. Asheville, North Carolina, Mad Dog. That's a beautiful part of the country, North Carolina. Very, very beautiful. Really, 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 really good. Folks, how much I cannot wait every single show for this time of the show so I can speak to my good friend, the host of War Room, Stephen Kevin Bannon. Mr. Bannon, I don't know if you have a return on your set, but I am wearing an ICE Immigration Customs Enforcement hat because I spent the early morning hours, pre-dawn hours, and those folks with the FBI, with Florida Highway Patrol, with the DEA, just the 22 law enforcement officers from all different agencies surrounded a couple of perps. Tren de la Agua bad guys, bad hombres were busted today, Mr. Bannon. We have it on tape, and we're going to bring it to our folks very shortly, as soon as we can get it compiled.
Did you send them to a plane and ship them down to CCOT?
Now that would have been a great idea. We should have just stuck that guy right in the, where's Nancy Pelosi, San Francisco, sticking one for her, one for Swalwell. I mean, there's plenty to go around, right? Everyone gets their own Tren de la Agua gangbanger to take care of.
Well, this is what's going to happen. We're going to have Rogan O'Hanley on about suspending the writ of habeas corpus. Is that President Trump, my strong recommendation, when you're out there with the teams and they're rolling guys up, take them to the airport, put them in a cargo hold, boom, head them to CCOT, let the courts suspend writ of habeas corpus, and let's roll with this thing.
I have an idea. It just dawned on me. Steve Bannon, alum of Harvard Business School. Why don't we get the Tren de la Aguas, roll them up and let them go to Harvard? Let them sit in classes with the other progressive liberal nutjobs there.
That would have been that was a great idea last week, but since President Trump just suspended all student visas for foreigners, we got, which is, by the way, a dream come true for me. Come on, give the slots immediately to Americans. I have nothing against foreign students, but it's out of control. I think Harvard's 31% international students. The great majority of those are from representing the Chinese Communist Party, and it's got to stop. And I think President Trump was the guy that wanted to put a green card on the back of every diploma. He's come kind of 180 because he's seen what a mess this thing is, particularly at Harvard, and I think these other universities also, particularly the public Ivies. It's got to go, and American students ought to be taking those billets. Those slots ought to be filled immediately. I think it's 6,000. And the bad guys that you rolled up today, I'd put them on a plane and I'd press the courts. Listen, they're going to rule against us anyway. We got to bring this thing to a head. Put them on a plane and send them to CCOT and dare the judges to do anything about it, sir.
Can you imagine that we're giving the Feds, our taxpayer money we're giving Harvard $3 billion that Trump is pulling back. We're giving them. They've got $63 billion in endowment. They don't pay taxes on the money they earn, and we're gonna finance foreign students that are come over here and not pay a penny to live here. Where this country's really gotten screwed up.
Well, this is what I think we voted for. I mean, President Trump, this is why he's taking on the institutions. He's taking on these universities that have been a hotbed. Let's be honest. The radicalization comes all the way through grade school and high school. Then you get to these universities. The problem's not the students. The problem's the faculty. We got to be purging. 100 or 200 faculty members got to go immediately, take their tenure, take their retirement, get rid of them. 200 administrators at each university to start to clean this thing up and put the fear of God in the rest of them.
That's right.
And let them know if you're going to take federal money, you're going to play by the rules. Come on, it's $2 billion. Think about it. Think about every kid. Think about the black and Hispanic kids in this country, the white working class kids that scramble, never get a shot to get in these good universities, never get a shot to get one of these high tech jobs. And we're paying of taxpayer money, we're paying $2 to $3 billion just to finance that part of it. It's sick. It shows you the self-loathing that these Ivy League schools have for the American people. And I say that as a graduate of Harvard, the whole thing ought to be rolled up, and they ought to start take their tax exempt status away. As you know, Bolling better than anybody, because you're a deal guy and you came out of the trading side of business. Take away the tax exempt status of the endowment. Let them start putting that down. If their alumni want to pay for it, hey, let them pay for it. It's fine. That's all good. But they're not going to take taxpayer money. And President Trump is dropping hammers.
They become hedge funds. They become hedge funds. These Ivy League endowments, 20, 30, 50, 60 billion. They should be taxed the way the rest of the street is taxed. Steve, I got to get to this because check out this video. Matt, I'll play the video. And before you do that, I want to tell you my niece, beautiful woman. She said she is in love with you. She's got a crush on you, Steve. I don't know what your situation is, but she's got a crush. So there's word that this video is 2 women fighting over Steve Bannon outside the Bannon embassy in D.C. Any truth to that rumor?
Will you stop? Will you stop? You're so good. You're so good.
I know. I'm sorry. That's USC.
I live a monkish.
Those are 2 secret service
Those are
agents.
protecting President Obama. Those are
yes.
Listen, you don't think we got a problem in the Secret Service? They're having a cat fight right there. They're duking it out. They're about to pull pistols on each other. Hey, I don't want to say there's anything to this split of Michelle and Barack, but just saying, a couple of ladies are outside duking it out over God knows what. So no, very, very disturbing. Very disturbing.
So it wasn't outside the Bannon embassy. I mean, it's a scene that I could possibly see, but being so close to the Supreme Court, they'd probably get bounced right away.
No.
All right, brother. Yeah, I'm gonna hand it off to you. I really enjoy these moments, and I'll bring you an ice hat next time I visit you in DC.
So, hang on for a second. Hold on for a second. So you got up at 4 a.m. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. You got up at 4 to go do the ice raid.
No, I got up at 3, met at the ICE building at 4. They did a presentation to 22 ICE officers at 5, and they bounced them at 9.
Yep. Okay. See, Bolling's going to take off here. He'll be in bed by 7. The old Bolling I knew would roll all night, right? He'd get in at 3 a.m. and it'd just be all night. This is the new improved Eric Bolling. So God bless you, sir. And God bless you for doing that ice run. Just remember next time, Eric, you'd say, hey, I got it from here, and take them right to the airport, put them on a military transport.
We're doing it tomorrow morning. We're doing it tomorrow morning. I'll mention
just
to the
hold
officers.
It. No. Hang on. No, hang on. Don't mention it. You walk in and say, hey, look, we took a vote on RAV during the day. 99,000 to 1. The people want to see him on planes to CCOT. See how far that takes you.
All right, brother. Your show. I love you. See you tomorrow, brother.
Thank you.
Bolling out.
Thank you. Good luck tomorrow. Be safe, Eric. Great that you're doing it.